Every time you open an avocado in your kitchen, whether you're in New York, Madrid, Tokyo, or Mexico City, an invisible chain connects the fruit to you. And that chain has an owner. Not an American corporation. Not a European consortium. It's a Mexican family. A single family, from a state that smells of pine and wet earth, that spent decades quietly building the most powerful agricultural empire of the 21st century. And the story of how they did it is darker, more ambitious, and more fascinating than any Netflix documentary has dared to tell. Let's go back to Mexico in the 1940s. The avocado had existed since pre-Hispanic times. The Aztecs called it Avocado. It was food for gods and warriors. But for the modern world, for the international market, the Mexican avocado was worth nothing. The United States had banned its importation since 1914. The official reason was an insect. A pest, the avocado seed borer, the USDA inspectors said. It was a phytosanitary risk, they argued. But the real reason was something else. California growers didn't want competition. And in Washington, lobbies have always spoken louder than science. For 80 years, Mexico grew avocados for domestic consumption. Michoacán, with its unique volcanic climate, its black soil, and its perfect altitude between 1,200 and 2,500 meters above sea level, became the world capital of a fruit that the world wasn't allowed to import. It was like having the best wine on the planet and not being able to take it out of your cellar. In the 1980s, in a municipality called Uruapan, there lived a man named Alvaro López Ríos. He wasn't a politician. He wasn't a narco. He was an agronomist with an obsession. To prove to the United States that the Michoacán avocado had no pests. That the ban was a lie dressed up as regulation. For years, López Ríos and a group of local growers funded studies, paid for inspections, pressured the Mexican government, and hired lobbyists in Washington. The negotiation lasted decades. But in 1994, NAFTA arrived, the North American Free Trade Agreement, and with it, a crack in the wall. In 1997, after 83 years of prohibition, the U.S. government authorized the importation of Mexican avocados for the first time, but only to certain states, during certain months of the year. It was little. But it was a foot in the door. And the family best positioned to cross the threshold was one that had been growing avocados on the slopes of the Paracutan volcano for 3 generations. The surname that appears most often in Mexican avocado records isn't just one. It's a network. But certain names show up again and again in the export companies, the packing houses, the boards of the sector's most powerful associations. And here lies the secret that few people know: Mexican avocado isn't exported as Mexican avocado. It's exported as an American brand. Calavo Growers, founded in California, is publicly traded and worth more than $1 billion. But its supply chain depends 70% on Michoacán growers. Mission Produce, another giant, handles more than 300,000 tons of avocado per year. Its packaging says "Product of Mexico" in small print. Its profits go to shareholders in Los Angeles. And in the middle of that entire chain, in Uruapan, in Tancitaro, in Paraban, are the Michoacán families who control the orchards, the packing centers, and the export permits. APIM, the Association of Avocado Producers and Packer Exporters of Mexico, was founded by local growers and today is one of the most influential agricultural organizations on the continent. Its members control 80% of Mexican avocado exports. Its presidents have always been Michoacán natives. And their decisions move global markets. On February 3, 2013, during Super Bowl 47 between the Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers, a 30-second commercial aired that forever changed the history of the avocado. Avocados from Mexico. It was the first commercial for an agricultural product in Super Bowl history. The airtime alone cost more than $5 million. And it worked. Avocado sales that weekend spiked 40%. Today, Super Bowl weekend is the single largest avocado consumption event in the world. More than 100 million avocados are eaten in a single weekend in the United States. And almost all of them come from Michoacán. The campaign was funded by APIM and the National Agricultural Council. It was executed by Mexican families who understood something very few Latin American businesspeople have grasped: you don't sell a product, you sell a cultural identity. The avocado wasn't just fruit. It was the ingredient in guacamole. It was the party. It was the American Sunday, the football game, and the cold beer. The Michoacan growers sold a lifestyle they didn't themselves live. And the world bought everything they had. But every empire has its shadow. In Tancitaro, the municipality that calls itself the avocado capital of the world, something extraordinary happened in 2013. The citizens expelled the municipal police. Not because they were anarchists, but because the municipal police had been infiltrated by the Knights Templar, the cartel that at the time was collecting a derecho de piso, a toll, on every ton of avocado leaving the municipality. The growers, fed up with paying extortion fees that reached up to 3,000 pesos per ton, organized their own self-defense forces. And it worked. Tancitaro became one of the most fascinating self-governance experiments in Latin America. They have their own police, their own courts, their own security system, all financed by the avocado growers themselves. But that doesn't mean organized crime disappeared from the business. According to reporting by Reuters, the New York Times, and the Mexican newspaper Reforma, the cartels continue to extort growers in parts of Michoacán. The quotas exist. Orchards change hands in ways that don't always go through a notary. In 2019, the U.S. government temporarily suspended USDA inspections in Michoacán after an American inspector received direct death threats. The avocado that reaches your table has to pass through American inspectors on Mexican soil. And those inspectors know exactly what kind of territory they're working in. Let's talk numbers, because numbers are where true power becomes clear. Mexico produces 50% of the world's entire avocado supply. Of that 50%, 80% comes from Michoacán. In 2023, Mexico exported more than 3.5 million tons of avocado, worth over $3 billion. In several quarters of the year, avocados surpassed oil as Mexico's top export product. What oil took a century to build, avocados did in 20 years. And there's something almost no one mentions. The price of avocado in Mexico is higher than in the United States. In peak season, a kilogram of Hass avocado in Michoacán can cost between 40 and 60 pesos. That same kilogram, packed, transported, and sold at a Walmart in Texas, costs the equivalent of 20 Mexican pesos. The country that grows the fruit pays more for it than the country that imports it. That paradox is not an accident. It is the structure of global power functioning exactly as it was designed. But the story doesn't end in Michoacán. Because the Michoacán model is expanding. Jalisco, Puebla, the state of Mexico, Guerrero, all are increasing their Hass avocado production to compete in the export market. Pine and oyamel forests are being cleared to plant avocado trees. Deforestation in Michoacán's avocado growing zones reached as many as 1,000 hectares per year in some periods. Aquifers are being overexploited because avocados require twice as much water as most regional crops. The indigenous Purapeca communities that once lived off milpa farming and the forest are being displaced, bought out, or simply ignored by the advance of the green monoculture. The world wants more avocado every year. And Mexico is willing to provide it. At any cost. So the next time you split that avocado in half, spread it on your toast, turn it into guacamole for a Sunday gathering. Remember everything that fruit carried to reach your hands. Remember the volcanoes of Michoacán. Remember the American inspectors with armed escorts. Remember the families that have spent generations quietly dominating one of the most lucrative markets on the planet. Remember the forests that are no longer there. And remember that behind every product that seems simple, there is always an empire. And that empire always has a name.